Good evening, everyone. I can't quite see you, but I know that you're there. It's a pleasure to welcome you to our 2023 Public Leadership Awards and celebration. Our guiding principle at the Evans School is to inspire public service and democratize public policy. And I hope you had some good conversations in the reception area to inspire you and to be proud of being connected to this community. My co-host for the night is David Shepard, who's the chair of my Dean's Council, and I am Jody Samford and have the great privilege of being the dean at the Evans School. David is the Regional Inspector General at the U.S. Department of Commerce and has become a really dear friend to me, and in the 2.5 years since I've been here in the state of Washington. So I'm happy to welcome David to the mic.
Thank you. I am really happy to be here, Jody. You have been an inspiration, I think, to everything that I have been trying to accomplish in this place that we call Seattle. And so, as we begin our evening, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors who've helped make this event possible. Visionary sponsors like Costco Wholesale, leadership sponsors, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, John and Bobby Bridge, Nancy and Ben Ramak, and the WSECU. Thank you. Our supporting sponsors, Dorothy Bullitt, Dan and Nancy Evans, I see them in the front row, Paula and Ed Lazar, the Henry M. Jackson Foundation, University of Washington Office of External Affairs, the University of Washington Alumni Association, and the William D. Ruckelshaus Center. Many of them are here to celebrate with us tonight, so join me, please, in a round of applause for all of them. I'd also like to thank some distinguished guests and officials who are here with us this evening. However, I don't have a list of those folks, so I would like to just say thank you all for coming, and we appreciate you for being here and participating in this event with us. We're also glad that you could celebrate with us today, and I look forward to a great program this evening.
Great. So when I arrived at the Evans School in early 2021, we involved many of you in some conversations about the essence of the school, its values and traditions. And tonight's theme, Think Beyond Ourselves, Act to Uplift All, is pulled directly from one of the 3 values that we've articulated for ourselves, and that is one of service. The words actually are important to us because they make it's clear to us that we need to do this work every day in the way we are with each other and in the projects we take on. Although in the last few years we've been watching declining civic health, seeing attacks on the legitimacy of democratic institutions and processes, heightening stressors from environmental degradation and international conflicts, these events, I feel, are really focusing our attention. Many of us are rolling up our sleeves and participating in what I'm coming to think of as a renovation to democracy. Out of necessities, we are reconnecting to our civic responsibility, to civic health. We're reforming political institutions and public infrastructures so that we have the democracy and the public services that we need, not ones that we've merely inherited. For me, that's why tonight matters. Last year, to celebrate our 60th anniversary, we launched a new tradition, which is to celebrate public leadership, and we plan to do this annually. In these times, I think it's incredibly important that we pause, we remember what does it take to do public leadership, and really celebrate the day-to-day courage that we need to serve communities and improve the systems. So we think of this as a moment to celebrate, to learn, to recharge for the work ahead. It's also a time for us to celebrate and highlight some of the good work we feel like we're doing at the Evans School and inviting you to be a part of it. So we have one more person to help us bring in this event. In the last few months, I've had the great honor of working closely with the Lieutenant Governor Denny Heck. We've come together along with Washington State University and the Ruckelshaus Center and the Jackson Foundation to tackle the question of civic health and the fact that in the political domain, we obviously are being pulled apart by our differences. So we are learning together, and in fact, tomorrow we're hosting about 200 people in Renton for a summit all day where elected officials, civic leaders, and others from community who know and care about this problem want to start taking action together. So we are going to be deep at work with Denny tomorrow, and for that reason, we wanted him to be one of the voices that welcomes you here this evening. So, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Jody, so very, very much. Governor Evans, other distinguished guests, and friends of the Evans School, has there ever been a school more appropriately and aptly and deservedly named than the Evans School in honor of Dan Evans? Ever, anywhere, any state, any time. It's always an honor to be in the room with you, sir. Belated happy birthday 2 days ago. Boy, it's going to be the celebration of the century 2 years from now. See what I did there? It is an honor to be here and welcome you to this event because, simply put, I think the Evans School is a Northwest treasure. Not Puget Sound, not state. It's a Northwest treasure. What could be more timely, what could be more urgent than the Evans School continuing to fulfill its mission of inspiring the next generation of public service leaders and helping create solutions to the knotty and seemingly intractable problems in our state, in our nation, and in our world. Years ago, some of you will remember that the University of Washington had a slogan, "You're getting something out of it whether you go there or not." First of all, I'm not sure why they got rid of that magnificently sublime and true statement. Then again, I still like GE's long abandoned, "They bring good things to life." But that slogan is absolutely true of the Evans School. We are all getting something out of the Evans School, whether we go there or not. Every one of us and everyone in this state. And I know this firsthand. This is the part of my remarks that Jody stole entirely. Many months ago, as she indicated, our office launched a Project for Civic Health. Frankly, it was based in no small part on despair for our current state of affairs. We wondered if there wasn't something more that could be done to find common ground among ourselves. In other words, to actually lean into the task of governing. And when we cannot find common ground, we wondered if there wasn't a way to disagree better. Of course, the Evans School immediately came to mind, and I reached out to Jody. Her team immediately became founding partners in the project, along with two other outstanding institutions, as she referred to, the Jackson Foundation and the incredible Ruckelshaus Center. And we held these focus groups or roundtables, as she did, and we issued our preliminary report with its recommendation, and it is the basis for which this day-long conversation with this hugely diverse group of individuals will occur tomorrow. That summit tomorrow, which I don't think she fully acknowledged or admitted to, was largely designed by a team led by the Evans School. As I said, helping to create solutions for our challenges. I'm excited for the day tomorrow, and I'm excited for what they will come up with and I am excited for what that may hold for the future. It's work that will have a real and timely impact on the health of our democracy. And that's what the Evans School does. Finally, let me say this. I've been intermittently involved. I've had the privilege and the honor to be intermittently involved with state government for 51 years, public service altogether, trying to deny my time in Congress. Not quite as long as Governor Evans, of course. And I know this. I know this. The Evans School is a world-class school of public policy and governance. It gets involved and it prepares the next generation of leaders, whom we should remind ourselves are not just born and do not fall off trees. I celebrate the Evans School, and I appreciate it so much, as I do you for your presence and support of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So now it's time for us to transition to the Leadership Awards. As I said, the idea for this really came from realizing that we don't celebrate enough the day-to-day leadership it takes to make the public service reality happen. So I'd like to say what's going to happen now. David and I are going to give you a little highlight about these leaders, and then I've invited them to be in dialogue with me in front of this crowd. And I said, this is a situation where we're going to have a conversation in front of a lot of people that you might not normally have, because I feel like the realities of day-to-day life is authenticity and just reflection on what matters comes when you're in conversation with people with different points of view. So we have 3 award winners, and more about them all can be found in your program, and we would encourage you to take notes or make that program your own. The first award is for Community Catalysts. We wanted to emphasize this because research is clear that grassroots leadership is a critical element in any community well-being. And this award really recognizes a leader whose efforts impact not just any community, but their community, the one that they call home. The individuals are celebrated for their consistent efforts to foster collaboration, amplify local voices with special effort and attention to historically underrepresented groups, and really staying connected to those people. This year, I'm thrilled to honor Pa Ousman Joof with the Community Catalyst Award. So Pa Ousman is the founder and executive director of the Washington West African Center. It's a nonprofit organization that provides culturally relevant services to West Africans in Washington. And as an immigrant, Pa Ousman faced many struggles, including eviction, disconnect of his utilities, and no means to buy food or diapers for his children. He founded the organization in 2017 from his living room because he wanted to provide services and support to his people, and that he couldn't find because he was undocumented himself. Since then, he's grown this what was once a volunteer-run organization into a nonprofit with 6 staff, serving more than 5,000 community members through 10 key programs including programs for children, food drives, language interpretation, emergency transportation, support in navigating government assistance. I'm also pleased to share that after 18 years of living here and fear of being deported, on September 7th, 2022, Ousman Joof became a U.S. citizen. So let's join me in congratulating him.
Thank you. So the Systems Changemaker Award recognizes a leader with remarkable sensitivity to the future and courageous determination to do what is necessary today to inspire a better tomorrow. They use strategic and pragmatic leadership as a medium to create change. And while their individual influence can move mountains, this change maker intentionally shares power and responsibility. They understand systems change is most achievable when conducted as a collective effort and are a trusted convener and facilitator of collaborative action. This year, we are pleased to honor Judge Ann Levinson as our Systems Changemaker awardee. For nearly 2 decades, Ann has been an advisor to governments, nonprofits, and foundations on issues including child welfare and juvenile justice, police accountability, campaign finance and disclosure, gender-based violence, and gun violence prevention. Just some of Ann's work includes creating a first-of-its-kind regional unit to more effectively implement court-ordered firearms removal from domestic violence abusers and those at risk of harm to self or others. I think that's worth an applause. Presiding over the country's first municipal mental health court and serving in leadership roles under Mayors Roy and Rice, one of our state's first openly LGBTQ public officials, and advocated for state laws providing rights and protections for the LGBT community and families, and chaired several campaigns that defeated attempts to roll back those laws. Join me in congratulating Judge Ann Levinson. Congratulations.
So we're doing this one together. So as Dean of the Evans School, I have the great honor in selecting the Dean's Leadership Award winner, who celebrates an individual or a group that's committed to equity, radical courage, and uncompromising servant leadership. The leader is not afraid to run against the grain where it requires support, and really trying to foster democratic ideals in the face of challenges. So this year's awardee was nominated by David, so I think I want to have you do the introduction.
Although I don't know that he wants me to do the introduction. So I met our next awardee, Dr. Brent Jones, over 20 years ago, shortly after moving here from Washington, D.C. I was actually introduced to him by his dad, who is actually here, Joe Jones, who is a football icon here at UW. He knew how I loved to play basketball, and Brent actually thought that he could play basketball. And I'm just joking. Brent is pretty talented. But I learned a lot about Brent over the years. I credit him for most of the influential people that I've met since moving here. He was an influencer before the term was in vogue. Every time he and I, spoke or got together and talked, the discussion always seemed to go back to how we might better our community. That's who he is. With his lovely wife, Janine, by his side, and an incredibly gifted daughter, learning under such a gifted leader, they are truly a power family. And if you add his mother, Mona Lake Jones, who is a nationally recognized poet, It is no surprise that Brent is such a visionary educational leader who is committed to fostering the success of all students through transformative cultural shifts and revitalization of the pre-K through 12 educational system. As the superintendent of Seattle Public Schools, he oversees Washington State's largest school district and champions an environment where every student can flourish. Notably, Dr. Jones has been instrumental in propelling Seattle Public Schools towards greater equity and innovation. He masterminded the implementation of a district-wide racial equity strategy, forging impactful public-private collaborations to expedite student achievement. Furthermore, his leadership culminated in the integration of racial equity considerations within collective bargaining agreements, the establishment of the Civil Rights Compliance Office, and pioneering initiatives in talent development and recruitment aimed at enhancing workforce diversity and employee engagement. Dr. Jones has deep community roots and is a proud product of Seattle Public Schools and the University of Washington.
We were waiting.
I told all the truth. Dr. Jones' unwavering dedication to educational excellence, combined with his dynamic leadership, has left an indelible mark on the landscape of education in Washington State. His commitment to equitable innovation and inclusive education continues to shape the lives of students and educators alike. Congratulations, bro.
Okay. So, remember, we're going to pretend they're all not here.
Okay. Sounds good.
So one of the things when we were speaking earlier that was clear to me is that you each operate in really different domains and have had incredibly different paths into public leadership. One of the things that I did learn, though, is that they all espouse a human-centered design approach to public systems and trying to keep the systems that have been created focused on how do you do better for day-to-day people. They're also all community organizers and engagement practitioners. And I also thought it was fun that we realized that the legacy of public policy runs through the stories that you would share, because Anne helped pass the first Families in Education levy in King County that now benefits Pa Ousman Joof's organization directly. So that's pretty awesome. And you get some stuff out of that too, and support for your families. So I told you we were going to have a conversation about 3 simple questions. And the first one is really, what is your why? Why do you do what you do?
Well, I want to congratulate the 2 of you, and I am privileged to sit amongst you today. It all started, as you mentioned in your introduction, over 18 years ago. You said it. I became a U.S. citizen on September 7th of last year, after 18 years of being in the United States. And I want to recognize the presence of my pillars and my support system during this time. My wife, Amiseka, is in the crowd. And matter of fact, I want to dedicate this award to Amy. She was 3 months pregnant with my first daughter, Fatima, who is also in the crowd, when I was arrested and detained by immigration, by ICE in 2008. She was 3 months pregnant. I have changed work permit in the United States over 10 times. I was considered a refugee. I was arrested and put in a detention camp for 4 months with a monitoring bracelet on my leg for 9 months. my struggle in the United States is real. I was scared, I was afraid. I needed things that I did not have, that I have nowhere to find. There is no doubt that the system has been broken and still continues to be broken. Now, after I got out of that predicament, I said, I will create something that those that will come after me, immigrants, will not have to go through. So thanks to my entire family, the Seattle Gambian Grammar Association and the seniors. Thanks to my board of directors for supporting me, and everybody else that's here with me today. Things that I needed that I could not have at the time is why I created this organization to support the West African community, and we are providing the cultural relevant wraparound services. Just last week, Friday, I was at the Tacoma Immigration Detention Center doing interpretation for a young West African guy. Our only crime is being immigrants. This is why I do what I do.
Well, Dean, I would say my why started when I was an undergraduate. I had the opportunity to go into battle to help fight for equity and parity for young women and girls in athletics at the university, and it turned into quite a difficult challenge for several years, and it taught me so much about the need to step up and help others and provide voice and work in coalition and take on what may seem insurmountable and intractable. For those who are here tonight who have worked with me, they're going to laugh at this, but it also taught me I can be relatively purpose-driven and tenacious and really work hard to lift up other voices and open doors for folks and take on issues that can be to all external viewers seem pretty impossible to solve, but that we can get there and make a difference in many lives when we do. And I'll just say another part of the why that came from that experience was that we all stand on the shoulders of those who come before us. And there were two educators in particular who exemplified that for me and are part of this why. And one was a professor there at the university who she was fighting for tenure for women, female faculty in that era still had to fight to have just the opportunity for tenure and for wage parity. And she read about what I was doing, and she reached out to me and wrote me a letter and said that she would meet with me, and she counseled me and said, I just want you to know I'm here for you, and I'm proud of you for taking this on, and I'll be in your corner. So she opened the door for me and showed me that I had an obligation, to do that for others. And it put me on a path to go to a social justice law school. And at that law school, the dean was a man who'd been very involved in the civil rights movement. He had worked for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and worked with Thurgood Marshall. And one of his colleagues said of him something that just really resonated with me, which was he wasn't afraid to take risks if he thought that what he stepped up to do could make the world just a little more just. And so I took that to heart, and both of those mentors helped form my why that has driven everything since then. So I feel very fortunate to have had a difficult challenge that taught me so much.
So let me just start by saying I'm honored to be in space with both of you. Your whys are very compelling. I probably should have gone first. But nonetheless, my why is around the collective. And what I mean by that, it started a long time ago. And I went to a school by the name of Harrison, which later became Martin Luther King. And at that time, I was around educators and a particular principal that poured into me early on that I'm supposed to achieve. I'm supposed to thrive. Her name was Louise McKinney. And Louise McKinney was also just the principal, but she was the first lady to Mount Zion Baptist Church. And at the time, that was the church that my family attended. And we had this ethic that was built into us at that time that you will be successful. And so I've had an extended family that's been around me since since day one, that's always had the expectation that we would thrive and we'd be successful. I didn't know that going to college was not an option. That wasn't something that I even knew that people thought about, is not going to college. I knew that by about age 5 or 6, I would need to think about what grad school I was going to. And so the extension of the love and the care that was afforded to me was profound. And so fast forward to sometime in 2020, late 2020, when one of the board members tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Brent, would you do this job?" I said, "Absolutely not." But because I'd sat in the seat a couple of times as the number 2 person and watched the abuse that superintendents take. And I said, no, I've seen it, and that's not something I want to do. However, it's always been about service over self-interest. And I come from that, as my parents are here in the audience, and my family has had a history of really trying to make situations great for people to elevate from whatever their current situation is. And so as I stepped into the role of the superintendent, it's a big system, it's a bureaucracy, but I carry with it this ethic of support, this ethic of an extended family, this ethic of creating the conditions, creating that brotherhood, sisterhood for us to thrive together. And so I'm also a true believer in public education. I believe it's a game changer. I believe it's our path to liberation. And so when we use terms like equity and justice, it's kind of who I am. It's at my core. And I think about it from a systems level. And how can we make this system work for everyone? And so I'm a product of Seattle. I come from here in an authentic, genuine interest to see our community grow and thrive. And I heard Lieutenant Heck talk about the civic health and the civic discourse. I'd like us to get to a place where we embrace our public institutions and we do what we can to be a family, to be an extended family, to wrap around these institutions so that we can grow together. And so my role is the CEO, and the CEO is the Chief Expectation Officer, to make sure, yes, to make sure, again, that we have the conditions to thrive. And so that's how I enter into this space. That's how I want to hold space with you all collectively. And again, thank you for your time today, and thank you for being part of this, for inviting me to be part of this collective.
So when you talked about your why, each of you talked about specific people, right? Which is not the way a lot of times stories are written. A lot of times people think that leadership is about you just kind of come out and you were born leading, right? And I think it's important that you all are acknowledging that it is community and it is in relationship with others, and that's central to the motivation. Superintendent, you started to talk about your how, so that was the question, the second question, because what's so interesting to me, you each thought about, there's lots of places you could lead, but you decided to lead in a particular way. You responded in a how, you thought about your skills meeting what the world needed of you. So say a little bit about that. Often our students think it's so clear that like everybody knows the how they're going to do it, but in my experience, it really is not that way. you want to start, Brent?
Sure. Well, it's a lot about perseverance and keeping the main thing the main thing. We have these really important, tremendously powerful goals, but sometimes we get caught in dealing with all the distractions. I entered into my role during Delta and Omicron. We had a teacher's strike. We've had all kind of conflict and challenges that we've had. But what we've done is try to insist that we keep the main thing the main thing. And it's about teaching and learning. That's what Seattle Public Schools does best. I stack our school district up against any other school district, and our teachers and our school leaders, they absolutely know what they're doing. So for me I have to set guardrails in place so that we can continue to focus. My job is to mitigate the distractions that come into the school district. You all probably have read this thing called the Seattle Times. There's a lot of, let's just say, critique of what school districts do. And we could easily get sidetracked by that. So I spend a lot of time in my how is keeping us focused on what we do best. But specifically, it's around what strategies are we using? And do we have the courage to abandon strategies when they're not working? Do we have the courage to adopt new strategies along the way? And what's our cycle of adoption and abandonment? Do we wait till the end of the year, or do we do it in real time? So we think about strategic refinement. We also spend time thinking about implementation fidelity. Everybody has a great idea, but when it's time to implement, that's a different level. So we're spending time thinking about how are we going to get this across the line. And I've learned from a mentor that no plan survives first impact. And we have to be flexible in order to adopt and be open to feedback so we can change. And then finally, we have to measure what's important. If you're not measuring it, how do you know you're making progress? We are, a lot of us in positions are attached to the performative work, and we want to talk about that and give ourselves credit for that. But the boring work is really what matters around what are we doing to shore up our strategy, our implementation, and are we measuring the right things? And so I think about that in the terms of continuous improvement is always something that we're looking for. And then for me and for most of us that are in service, we have to always know who our clients and customers are and have to center them in every decision that we make. It could be inconvenient at best to, at times when, in our world, when adult issues get in the way of some of the student interest. And how do we mitigate against that? And so really around persevering, staying diligent, being very focused, and trying to, again, mitigate the distractions is our how. See, I'm an organizational development geek, but so if I leaned heavy on that, that's just who I am. So, thank you.
I really appreciate that, and I feel like sometimes what you're talking about is actually what systems don't do so well. The continuous quality improvement and people being able to keep, in your case, the students at the center, it's hard. And I don't know why it's so hard, but it's hard. It's really difficult. Yes. Ousman, you've told me some stories about your how. Share with us how your organization works.
A few days ago, the four of us had a Zoom meeting to talk about what is going to happen here, and I told them I don't think I am as sophisticated as they are.
Stop that.
And I'm just realizing we have two black men sitting in between two, white women here. Isn't this beautiful?
That's right.
Well, my how is primarily defying the system. We all would agree, for the most part, that the system is broken.
Yes.
And I start, everywhere I sit, I say, we have been guinea pigs for the longest. We have been underdogs for the longest. We have been put in a tight corner. Systemic racism, discrimination, unfair and uneven and unequitable distribution of resources. Our community was left behind. And I'm saying it because I'm in the center of it all, where now I sit at the table. I will say, thanks to COVID-19 and the death of our brother George Floyd, the emergence of the Black Lives Matter movement, that communities like my community start to have the privilege and the opportunity to sit at a table like this. For the longest, we've been the menu. For the longest, we've been the dessert. And I keep saying, it is about time that we sit at the table where decisions are made. It is about time that we be there to make the dessert instead of being the dessert.
Yes, yes.
I defy the system. My family and some of the people I work with think I'm crazy.
Why?
Every staff that I have, and I recognize all of them, thank you for the good job. For the sake of time, I wouldn't mention your name. The very first time they come on board WAWAG, or even the board, they'll say, take it easy. I said, this is the language they understand. Just this morning before I came here, I was preparing a cost allocation plan that my staff have been working on for the past 3 days because of why? We receive some funding to provide housing for our community, and they're asking us for so many different things that big organizations, big institutions, corporate institutions have had for the longest. They have the strategies, they have the know-how, they have the resources, they have the infrastructure and everything. When counties, when federal government, when state government issues funding, they want to prioritize those big institutions and organizations. My how is, cut the funding you are giving to those organizations and deal with us. We are the grassroots organizations. We are the organization for the people. We are the ones sitting there and doing the work for the community. I don't compromise it. I have zero tolerance for it. Gone are the days when we are used to say, come and sit on a colorful platform like this just for the sake of it, to write notes, to take pictures and show out to say, oh, it's all inclusive. Nothing about us without us. That is my how. My how is provide the resources to my community equitably. We provide food for the community. There is a dire need for it. For the year 2023, my board has three priorities: housing justice, food justice, and mental health. For heaven's sake, the mental health of my community is dearly affected because my people are undocumented. A good number of us go for years to get our situations regularized like I have done. And for this reason, my community fear to go out, to talk, to ask for resources, even when we qualify for it. My how is going to tell my community story. Just 2 days ago, I was on a meeting with a federal agency who wants us to provide some services to my community with no funding, nothing. They just say, oh, come and be part of it. Federal government, state government, local governments want grassroots organizations like us to do a lot of work without giving us anything. My how is defying it and say, unless you want to support us and give us what we need to do this work, we don't want it. A radical approach, yes, this is what I take. I sweat. I work hard. We deserve it. I sit at the table. I met the director of this agency. We're having a meeting. We're talking. I told her our concerns, our challenges, our strengths, our constraints, that West African languages are not written for the most part. Yeah. When we sit down and we attend forum, or you go on websites of different institutions, they will tell you, oh, we have this translated in Spanish, in Chinese, in Arabic, in French. Tell me if there's Yoruba. Tell me if it's translated in Igbo. Tell me if it's translated in Hausa. Tell me if it's translated in Wolof, Mandinka, Jola, Fula, Sarahule, and all the West African languages. So my how is providing cultural relevant services. We translate things in our local languages. On a regular basis, we are providing language interpretation and translation, food, housing, education, the after-school program. King County, we have a video after-school program for our youth in King County and Snohomish County, and we are growing statewide. Our community goes to work do two, three jobs, some people in the community, because of what? Language barrier. Because of what? Undocumented status. Because of what? Sometimes low level of education. People have to support our families back home and support ourselves here. We have a lot of cultural differences, and this needs to be recognized. A lot of entities and institutions don't know that. And I'll say it, some of you might have encountered me somewhere through Zoom or in some of the forums that I attend, some of the fora that I sit at. A good number of people that make laws, a good number of people that make decisions that are sitting at corporate level, at government level, whether local, city, state, or federal or county level, or even in corporate entities, don't know these deeply rooted problems and issues in the different communities, such as mine. And my how is trying to sit at the table, talk to them, educate them, and ask them for us to find solutions together. When I met with this director at one of the federal agencies, she said, oh, that's above me. I don't know what to do. This is written on stone. I said, if you can't do anything about it, the bill is at its first reading. Don't kill the bill. Take it to your supervisor or somebody above you. Schedule a meeting with me and him or her. How can I do that? With time, they schedule it. I meet the next person, the next person. For the lawmakers in the House, they mostly put it on you to say, oh, that's at the state level, that's at the lawmakers level. Let them change the laws. Until that is done, we can't do much. This is my how.
Thank you.
Wow.
One of the things that really I've learned so much from you is how when you are grounded in the needs of your community, you will find out how the system is set up. And you will find out where the leverage points are. And Anne, I think, has spent her career also finding those leverage points. So, of course, we're running out of time, but I'd like to invite you to talk a little bit about your how.
Well, the first how is don't wake up in the morning and be righteously indignant and say someone needs to go fix that, because then you're in, right? So I fail miserably at that. I also fail miserably at the don't pick up the phone when certain persons call and say, would you? It'll only take, and then, and I won't name names of the people here. But in all seriousness, for me, it starts with what's the problem we're trying to solve, and who it is that we could be helping better, and why isn't the system or the policy or the law as effective as it should be, and why hasn't it been remedied before? What's the history? What's the context? Do we have a window of opportunity now that we didn't have before? Has there been a crisis or a change in thinking that's helped move people forward? Is there an opportunity, because we have different decision makers at the table, and is there now research that we didn't have before so we can be more evidence informed? Have there been cases? Has there been litigation that's changed the landscape? And then I ask whose voices need to be at the table, who needs to be heard, whose perspective should be shared and understood, and what are all the things that I don't have expertise in, and I don't have that lived experience. My lens is only what I have been through. So whose experiences need to be reflected, whose expertise needs to be brought to bear, and how do we bring in that coalition so that we can have the best of everybody's thinking and perspective and experiences. And then to ask, when we do that, who's going to be opposed, who's going to be concerned, who's going to prefer the status quo, how are they going to reflect that opposition, and rather than demonize them, try to start with understanding why they might be opposed or concerned, and do they have a valid perspective? Is there something we need to, and we could learn from? and then understand what it is that motivates them and why they take the position they do, and who are the best voices then to advocate with them, to bring forth a strategy depending on the nature of the problem. It may be multi-pronged, right? We may need to reform a system or a practice or a policy. We may need to change a law. We may need to litigate. We may need to go to the ballot box. We may need to train differently. And there are all sorts of strategies, and often you have to do them in parallel. But as we go, we have to be willing to say, you know, the way I thought we should do it might not be the best way, and I need to be open to other ways, and I need to be listening, and I need to assess every barrier and every obstacle and what could possibly go wrong. And then once I do that, I need to take some more protein drinks. And
Paul Ousman was talking about sweating. I think there's a lot of sweating that goes on.
And recalibrate, and then take out the three-dimensional chessboard and map it out. And then really, it's so important, and the folks who are here with me this evening all have helped me, have partnered with me, have collaborated with me, have led me, have made decisions that have made these changes possible. And sometimes you have to do it, sometimes there's an opportunity for comprehensive reform, and sometimes you have to do it in phases. And you just have to develop the best strategy for that moment in time where we are, and to understand that there's so much value in doing things in coalition and in partnership. And we, none of us, if I had all the power to do things myself, it would be a lovely world, but we really are so much better. We thrive in this kind of change when we do it in collaboration and in coalition and allyship. And so many significant things would never have been accomplished if we weren't doing it together. So for me, the how is trying to bring those voices together and that expertise, and then trying to be as principled and as honest and forthright, recognizing that we are asking people to make tough decisions. If it were easier, it would have been done before, and that we need to be trusted, and we need to recognize that we may be in oppositional places on this issue, but we're going to be needing to work together on the next one. And so we need to treat each other with respect and dignity, and in a principled way. And I would also just say that we need, particularly nowadays, to appreciate the fact that there are tensions at play in all of these difficult works. And we need to do everything we can to bring down the tensions and to respect the differences and to reflect upon where those tensions come from. And that so many of our tough decisions are not binary. There shouldn't be either or, they should be yes and that we can get there if we do that together.
So to conclude, one of the things I'm aware of is that we have an incredibly diverse audience here. I think your son is the youngest, and I believe Dan Evans is the oldest, so we go from about 8 years old to 98 years old, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking about the Evans School students in the room, you know, in just a bit, why would you do public leadership? Why?
I can start. I do public leadership because it is, I believe, the right way to do it. Because you feel what the people are feeling. He said it, Chief Expectation Officer. That's what we are. To serve the people, knowing and feeling the problems of the people, and be able to get up early enough when everybody is sleeping to work on the people's needs. Be able to stay up at night to take care of a need. Be able to stay at the office late. I take passion in doing it. I'm not making this up. Yesterday, we have our food distribution that we do every other week. I was at Restaurant Depot yesterday buying lamb because we give cultural appropriate food to the community. I met a community member there, and she said, "Pa Ousman, why? I mean, I've seen people doing things, but I don't see anybody doing it like you do, especially consistently and for the duration that you do it." I just laughed. He said, "So many other people have started things like this, and it didn't go." This same lady has a store and was cutting the lamb for us. In the evening, I was on the phone with the president of the Liberian community in Washington State. He repeated exactly that same comment, and I had two of them talk about it. I told the lady, she's just repeating, he's just telling me what you told me earlier this morning. It is because of passion. It is because you know the people's problems. We listen to them, and all the different programs that we create are based on the needs of the community. Guess what? From a needs assessment survey that was done for us by the students of UW, Bethel. Dr. Rabi Yunusa is here. I recognize her from UW School of Public Health. By having partnership with different agencies, by having partnership with different institutions, by knowing the people's problems and going out in the community and talking about it and going to leaders and lawmakers and people that have a voice to talk to them about the people's problems, to find it. That is what it is. You try to devise solution, and you try to see what works. You keep it. By engaging the community is an important thing. And I believe it is the bedrock of what everybody should do. Because if you know what the people are feeling and you take up that responsibility, you definitely will have no choice but to work for them. Before I let it go, I want to recognize Group Health Foundation, Anatai Foundation now, who are my bedrock and providing life support to my organization, them and the Community Foundation of Snohomish County and Verdant Health Commission. I invited them here to come and celebrate this with me. It was tough. They gave me $75,000 in 2020, which I used to open the space that serves as a safe haven for my community now. That is public leadership. Because that money could have been used towards doing anything else. But I talked to the board, and we decided to open the office, pay the rent, do all the necessary things that we had to do, and I continued to volunteer to run the organization for years. After putting it, I'm running it from my living room, as you said. That's public leadership. Put yourself last and put the people's needs first.
So I believe all three of us, all four of us, have hope in the unseen, also known as faith. We're also students of the system. Some of us work within the system. Some of us work to change the system. Some of us work to, I can't remember how you mentioned, Paul Ousman, push the system or break the system even. But we're all students of that, and we understand what we need to do. And we also understand, and some really brilliant person said, the system yields the results they're exactly supposed to yield. But we have the audacity to think that we can change it, that we can move it, that we can sometimes break it, or at least create a seat at the table and invite people in who might influence it in a different way. And so when we think about public service, we're inviting the public in so that we can serve them in a way that's relevant and meaningful and authentic, and that carries us. I think that's our charge. We get energized, and I think if I'm lying, y'all tell me. We get energized by when community comes in and they give us a nugget of wisdom and they give us a strategy so that we can move it in a way that it's going to benefit the greater good. We also understand that this creating system opportunities, when you create system opportunities for those on the margins, the entire system benefits. And so when we start talking about concepts like justice, we know we need to create the conditions for those who've been furthest from justice to get their justice, and then the whole system improves. That's how we can determine when the system's healthy or not. I know in some nations they ask, how are the children? And so if we ask, how are the children first, and somebody says the children are doing well, we know our systems are working. And so we don't stop, we don't sleep until such time as we see outcomes that are optimal for everyone. And so it's around us being studious. It's about us being adaptive. It's about us being open to doing things differently. But we respect the game, as they say. We understand what it is. We just want to make sure it serves our public in a bold and very specific way.
Before George comes back, I just want to say, I just thought about it. Last year, a group of nursing students from UW Bethel were doing their internship at WAWAC, and one of the very first questions they asked me was, Pa Ousman, what do you gain out of this?
What did you say?
It's a sense of fulfillment for me. What I gain out of it is going to bed every day knowing that I have positively changed and influenced the life of somebody.
Yes.
That's what I gain from it.
Yes.
You've got the last word, Ann.
Say again?
You have the last word.
Oh, I always love to have the last word. Just to reiterate what folks have said, it's about outcomes, it's about changing lives. You know, it's about making sure the system isn't centered around those of us who work in it, but centered around those that we are there to be serving. You know, it's about affecting the social determinants of health. It's about helping the generations that come after us. And whether it's public service, nonprofit leadership, being on the bench, we can each lead from wherever we are, and we can each help improve the lives of those around us. And in fact, we have an obligation to do that. We have a moral obligation to always see if we can leave the world a little better than we found it, and to step up and lead whenever there's an opportunity to do so. So I'm all in, and I just want to also thank you, Dean, for bringing us together, because I just feel it in this room. There are so many people who are dedicated to this kind of public service and community service and commitment to our fellow human beings, and approach it with empathy and caring and compassion.
Yes.
And, you know, given what's going on in the world today, it's just so important that we are all here reinforcing our shared commitment to doing this kind of work.
Give them a round of applause.
Yes, sir.
Remember to... Okay, so now I want to tell you a little bit more about some of the work we're doing at the Evans School. Because I think, as Ann just suggested, we're trying to do things like this at some scale. And part of that is, I think, as these leaders illustrated, and I feel so much in my own life, the path to public service is often very meandering. You know, for young people, when they come to our school, they think about their career choices, and they think it's a linear path. And then we talk to people who've been maybe doing public service in a state agency or in a community nonprofit, and they say, we want to be more strategic, or we want to understand the system better, we want to understand why things don't work the way we think they should work. We also encounter people who are sector switchers, who've been working in a place that isn't about the kind of public leadership you just heard about, but actually are people who want to build those skills, the knowledge of how governments, philanthropy, nonprofits work together. So I feel so fundamentally that the Evans School has a fundamental role to play in helping people in various parts of their lives really feel and connected to that pathway to public service. And each person who comes through our door, I really think, has an exponential impact on our communities, as you've just heard from these three people. So one of the ways we do this is, when I came from Minnesota, we run a 7-week summer institute for people who are between their junior and their senior year of college. And it is targeting young people who are underrepresented in many public policy arenas. And they come to the University of Washington expense-free. They get to stay in the dorms. They get a stipend because they're not able to do internships or other kinds of things like that. And our amazing leaders of this program, Professor Karen Martin and Program Manager Ousman Sagai, expose these scholars to the working of the system, right? And they're 21. And we get them hooked on policy the way we do it in the Pacific Northwest through field trips, through engagement with some of you in the audience at places like Microsoft and the Gates Foundation and small community nonprofits. They have a mentoring program as well. They engage in coursework. They get to be economics geeks and statistics geeks, as well as learning about community nonprofits. And when they get done with this program after 7 weeks, they get to have access to a scholarship pool that enables them to go to the best public policy programs in the country. So why I'm proud of this, and we're going to show you a little video in just a second, is that it really fosters among them a sense of belonging. And there are people in the room who are alumni of this program. It's called the Public Policy and International Affairs Program, PPIA. And I feel just so clearly that given the assets of our school, it's really important that we invest in this next generation. So we have a video from this last summer's program because we wanted to bring some of those voices into the room. So somebody here knows how to make that happen.
Someone from the Office of Merit Scholarships and Fellowship Awards reached out to me, and I had worked with her a bit during my application process to UW. And so I got to share my story with her, my passion for policy and helping immigrant and refugee communities in Seattle. And she remembered me down the line, knew about JSI, knew about Ousman, and just connected us. And so I went through the process, and here I am today.
I think for me, it was really important that my syllabus reflected kind of like who I am as a person, as a scholar, as someone in the policy and PA field. And so although I taught a leadership and community engagement class, there was a heavy emphasis on social equity throughout my course, a heavy emphasis on the students kind of leading the course and deciding what we talked about and where we would kind of like pivot as needed. And it was just important for me to recreate a classroom that I think reflected the classrooms I wish that I had more of.
One of my favorite experiences within the program this summer has honestly been the classes and the panels. I think being able to be in the classroom with people who are doing work in community but are also extremely interested in just public policy or in government and politics is amazing. I very distinctly remember one of the panels moderated by Dean Jody, and we had a couple of experts who had worked on paid family and medical leave of absence. And it struck me because my family used PFMLA. My father, he was diagnosed with cancer a couple of years ago and has unfortunately passed, but as we were reaching the end, PFMLA was extremely helpful for us. My brother got to take some time off to drive him to his last chemo appointments or to stay with us. My mother got to get off of her work that was extremely grueling and tiring to stay with my father and stay with my family. And it was just a moment of realizing that public policy, that the work that we do affects not just lives in general, but it affects mine too. And to know that eventually I could be one of those people on those panels working on these policies was just a really important moment for me at that time.
It's really important for me to contribute to JSI and be a part of it because I think that the JSI program is a genuine reflection of what the Evans School wants to be and is working towards being. I think having impactful programming and just doing things that truly reflect our values, whether that is wanting to make change in the world, whether that is a commitment to anti-racist uplifting, whether that's a commitment to addressing issues of equity in the world. And so I think that also then means it's a true reflection of what I say my own values are, to take the time and the space to be a part of it.
This program has definitely expanded my horizons, and I was able to see myself in different careers or in different positions other than just being a lawyer. I think one of the most valuable parts of this program is that it shows me that there is something more. because public policy, law, and all of that, it seems that there's this huge barrier, especially for students of certain identities, students of certain backgrounds. But this program in the Evans School has really showed my cohort, that there is room for us, that our voices and stories and skills are needed in these spaces too.
So this program, this video actually demonstrates what this program means to the students, but it also demonstrates very clearly to me how this program's helped them to help their community and to help them grow as individual leaders. And so I am just a huge fan of the JSI program. And I'd like to take just a moment to acknowledge Alex and Ariel, who are featured in that video, who are here with us tonight. Please, could you stand? And I can't see you with the lights, but hopefully you all can. So the JSI program, I was a mentor in the program this summer, and it actually gives me hope in what our future can be through this program and what this program aims to accomplish. When I volunteered, I was inspired by how gifted these individual students were, the aspirations that they have, the presentations that they made at their end product capstone presentations, and the insights that they brought to some really important issues like incarceration, like homelessness, like water rights issues. I mean, these students tackle some tough issues that we are grappling with in our communities today. And as a mentor, I had the opportunity to connect with my scholar, and in fact, I connected her with some leaders. Paul Carson, he's in the room right now. He met with her on issues related to homelessness. And so I am incredibly impressed with how this program was set up, how it was carried out, and how we actually were able to not just lift up the lives of these students, but mine as well. I mean, I gained so much through my interaction with my JSI scholar. And so for me, it was just one way of giving back. Right? I think that it is important that we all recognize that when we climb a ladder and we get to a certain point of success in our lives, let's not knock the rungs off the ladder. Let's actually reach our hands down and help lift someone up so that they can actually achieve things. Because I think that that creates a gift to not only that one individual, but the other individuals that that person will help uplift in the future. So please, with that said, this is a responsibility that we all share, right? And so to help others climb higher. So I now ask all of you to join the Evans School in this work. Access to a world-class public policy education should not be for the privileged only, yet we know many barriers exist and historical inequities persist. JSI is just one of the programs that the Evans School is leading to expand pathways to public service and support students along a continuum of growth and learning. On the screen, I'm glad it was up there when I turned around. On the screen and in your programs, there's a QR code that you can scan to donate now or on your smartphone. There are also envelopes in your program should you wish to donate by check or make a pledge, and our team will follow up with you. So I'm going to pause for a second while you take time to actually do what I just said. And so I don't want you to feel rushed. I want you to take your time and actually hopefully make a contribution to this effort. And while you're doing this, because I know you're all frantically pulling out your phones to get that QC code, But while you're doing this, I want you to take a moment, right, to just envision a generation of young people who feel connected to government. It sounds strange, right? With the tools and confidence to change systems. We talked a lot about systems on this stage today. And whose breadth of lived experiences are valued. Take this moment to envision a diverse and thriving cohort of learners with access to financial support to make the dream of attending a world-class policy program possible. Thank you very much.
So we have come to the end of our time together tonight, and there's dessert and coffee and tea out in the lobby. I want to, though, celebrate a few important milestones. First of all, you have been told that Dan Evans is in the house. This week, Governor Evans celebrated his 98th birthday. And last year for our 60th anniversary, we commissioned a video about Dan's legacy and the important leadership roles that he's played for the state of Washington across the world. So there is a code in your program. I would encourage you to, when you go home, do a little scan of that and learn more about the wonderful leader that Dan Evans has been. And I'd just like to have everybody give him a round of applause. There are also some people in the room who are celebrating graduation milestones. Chuck Lisnick and Dick Zeiss are in the house. They graduated in 1973 from what is now the Evans School, so 50 years ago. Thank you for being here celebrating with us. And just thank you again for coming. Stay, enjoy dessert, enjoy the people that are in this room that have gathered. I think it's important that I want you to know that we have the aspiration to be the equity-centered public policy school in the country, the only one that wants to live out some of the values that we talked about tonight, and we look forward to continuing to partner with you in the multiple ways that you do, and we are so much better for this community behind our back. So thank you. So enjoy some food, more conversation, and continue the evening.